Hashem. Baruch Hashem. LaYehudim Haysa Oira Zu Torah, and we have the schus of learning Maseches Pesachim Daf Kuf Yud Daled Amud Beis, and we are officially Shloshim Yom Ganem Achag. So we are being Mekan the mitzvah of Limud Torah of Hilchos Pesach, 30 days before Pesach begins. Ashreichem Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach. We should be zocher that we should move from the Geula of Purim to the Geula of Nisan and continue to see Nisim v'Neflos for us and our children and our mishpachas and our generation. And of course, our learning is dedicated for the continued hatzlacha of our brave soldiers and the continued hatzlacha of Medinas Yisrael and our brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael. And that Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, Hashem should bless us and bless them with Geula Shlema Amitis B'mher B'Ameinu. Of course, today is the 14th day of Chodesh Adar, and we are just reviewing from the Mishnah and then going on to the Gemara at the top of Kuf Yud Dalet. The Mishnah told us at the bottom of yesterday's Amud it was brought in front of him, meaning the Balabais, or the person that is at the Seder, and we noted that was vegetables. What vegetables? Chazaris slash some kind of lettuce, which, as we are going to note, it seems to be it's exactly the same thing that you are going to be using for maror a little bit later in the Seder, because we are at Kaddish, which we mentioned, Urchatz we haven't spoken about yet, but then Karpas, you're going to have the vegetables in front of you. So you're going to have the vegetables, and then later on you're going to have the maror. Says the Gemara at the top of Kuf Yud Daled Amar Rish Lakish, says Rish Lakish, the Zois Emeris, this implies that mitzvahs tzrichas kavana, that mitzvahs require kavana. Why? How does this imply that mitzvahs require kavana, which is an enormous machlokes in Shas in general? Do you need to have kavana to be doing a mitzvah in order to fulfill the mitzvah of whatever you are doing? Zois Emeris mitzvahs tzrichas kavana kevan delay ba'idin chiyuv demarer hu da'achilei. What's the rationale here? Since at the moment that you were eating this lettuce, this chazaris, at the point in time that you are doing so at the beginning of the Suda, and you are still obligated to eat marar, and you are eating it with a bracha of bari priyadama, and maybe you didn't have in mind to fulfill the mitzvah of Mara at that point in time. And that's why you need to dip it again for the sake of Mara. Meaning, what the Mishnah told us is that you have your karpas, which you're going to dip, you're going to eat it with a bar pradama. So then, how come you haven't fulfilled Mara yet? It must be because you didn't have in mind to fulfill Mara. And what that implies clearly is that simply eating maror without the kavanah to fulfill the mitzvah of eating maror means that you haven't fulfilled the mitzvah, which means that mitzvah shrichas kavanah. The is halkedaitach mitzvah loy bai kavanah, because if you think that the mitzvahs don't need kavanah, lama loch treitivule. Why do you need to dip it again? Why do you need to have more of this lettuce? You've already done it. You've already done it once already. You fulfilled your mitzvah. Elamai, you have to say that without kavanah you haven't done it. Says the Gemara, hold on a second, Rish Lakish. Mimai, how do you know that? Maybe you don't need kavanah for mitzvahs. And then why would you need two dippings? That the kids are going to ask, what are we doing? And that's going to inspire them to ask questions. Meaning, everybody agrees. Everybody agrees that mitzvah shechas kavana, no problem with that. We could say that the Tanav Mishnah holds mitzvah shechas kavana, that is clear. That he holds that mitzvahs don't need kavana, but he's saying, why do you need to do it again? So that the kids are going to say, what are you doing? That's it. But in Achnami, you fulfilled your mitzvah already once. Says the Murvachit Tema, and if you're going to say im kain, if this is so l'shamin and shayirakas, so then you should say better in the Mishnah. Don't say that we are going to that we're going to fulfill the mitzvah with lettuce. Say you're going to do it on carrots. Right? Meaning that should be the thing that you're going to make the bari paradam on for the sake of karpas. And then you're going to dip again, and you're going to have a different vegetable. And that would let you know that there are two separate things that are going on here, and you wouldn't have the question of whether or not mitzvah shirchas kavana. Hold on one second. There we go. It's Purim. Got to let the rabbits know where we went. Okay. V'i ashmain and shayirakas. But if you're going to tell me that there's shayirakas, there's other vegetables involved. Hava amina, I would have said, no, it's only if you have two different kinds of vegetables that you need to dip twice. But if you only had chazeres by itself, if you only had lettuce by itself, you don't need to dip it twice. Because you could fulfill the mitzvah of Mara as soon as you make the Bari Pradama, make a Achilas Mara, and done. Kamash Malan, what the Tana of the Mishnah is coming to tell you is that even if you hold that mitzvahs ain't shechus kavana, even if you don't need to have kavana for mitzvahs, you still have to dip your lettuce twice, even though it's the same vegetable, so that it will be recognizable to the kids that you're doing something different. And furthermore, we have a brisa that is against Rish Lakish. The brisa says, Achlan demai, if you ate demai, which is questionably tithed produce, meaning produce that came from an Amaretz, Yotza, you have fulfilled the obligation. That doesn't tell you anything yet. But Achlan below miskaven, but if you ate it without kavana, Yotza, you fulfilled the obligation. That's a dead giveaway. That without kavana, you'd be out to the mitzvah. If you ate them in pieces, in bits and pieces, that's another din. Meaning in partial quantities, you didn't have a kazais at once. You fulfilled the obligation. So long as you don't wait between one nibble and another nibble longer than Kedei Achilas Pras. And the Magen Avraham points out here that it doesn't mean the time in between. It means from the time that you start eating until the time that you end eating. It's not like you eat for a minute and then you wait Kedei Achilas Pras and then you eat again. It means from the beginning of the eating to the end of the eating, Bichdei Achilas Pras, which is we assume to be somewhere between 1 minute, 2 minutes, 9 minutes, thereabout, depending on which shita you're going to hold with. Says the Gemara, Tanaihi. I'll tell you what Rish Lakish is saying. Yeah, he's saying that there's a machlokes tanaim, and he is trying to say what the Tana of our Mishnah holds. This is a machlokes tanaim with a mitzvah shechus kavana. Tonight, the Tanya, we have a brisa that says Rabbi Yossi teaches afal pi shitiv b'chazares, even though you dipped your lettuce. Mitzvah lahavi lefanam chazares v'charos shnei tavshilin. You still have a mitzvah to bring chazares, more lettuce, v'charos and the charos. To dip the maror, meaning your lettuce in again, ushnei tavshilin, and 2 cooked foods. That's what you need. The Rashbam here points out that what's this mitzvah? So the mitzvah is the mitzvah is he seems to say that it's a mitzvah midaraisa, and the Achronim get upset with the Rashbam. What do you mean it's a mitzvah daraisa? There's no mitzvah daraisa of eating maror. Certainly mismanaseh, and probably not even by itself. Whether or not there is a mitzvah of eating maror by itself, it seems to be not. So they said that the Rashbam is not being meduik, but there's a lot to say whether or not maror was a mitzvah daraisa in the Zman Hamikdash. By itself. The akasi mimai, but what is this proof? Dilma kasav Rabbi Yossi mitzvahs enshus kavana v'hai the bein tretivuli ki echad tehave heker letinakas. Yeah, but Rish Lakish, maybe Rabbi Yossi holds exactly like our Mishnah that mitzvahs do not need kavana, and the reason that you need these 2 dippings, chazaris once and twice, meaning you have to have your lettuce double time, so that the kids are going to ask, which is exactly what we're saying in the Mishnah. Says the Gemara, Im Kain, if this would be so, my mitzvah, that's not a mitzvah. My mitzvah, meaning mitzvah means that there is a mitzvah for you to bring it a second time, which means that mitzvah shichas kavana, according to Rabbi Yossi, and there is a mitzvah for you to have it with the kavana to be yotze the mitzvah of Mara. Then the Gemara, which means that Reish Lakish has been defended, and we have proven that there is a machlokes tanaim, where the mitzvah is shechus kavana, and our Mishnah is a question, which shita this follows. We have a brisa that stam brisa, meaning the Tanakam of the brisa, who very clearly indicates that mitzvahs do not need kavana, and Rabbi Yossi, who thinks that mitzvahs do need kavana, and Reish Lakish is saying that our Mishnah follows the opinion of Rabbi Yossi, and the Gemara challenges maybe it doesn't. But is Reish Lakish's opinion valid? Absolutely. A Mishnah might be the opinion of Rabbi Yossi. Says the Gemara, what are these 2 cooked foods? Amar Rav Huna says silka v'aroza. It could even be beets and rice, meaning it doesn't need to be meat. That's the that's the Rashbam and the Tosfos explained. Certainly, fleishiks works, but it doesn't even have to be. It could be beets and rice. Rava have mahade asil kavarosa, and Rava would make sure to go out on his for Leil Haseder to make sure that he had beets and rice as his two cooked foods. The Rav Huna, since it came from the mouth of Rav Huna. Rav Huna said this, so he was makbid on what his Rebbe had said, that it was very beloved to him. To be able to be Mekayim exactly as his Rebbe had said in the Shir. Amar Rav Ashi says, hold on a second. Shma mina de Rav Huna, we learn from Rav Huna the leis de chayish lahad Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, that we have out of hand completely rejected the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. We're not even concerned for the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. What's the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri? The Tanya, he says, the Tanya Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, Omer, Oiris min daganhu. He held that Oiris, that rice, is one of these species of grain. We have 5 species of grain, which is wheat, oats, rye, barley, and spelt. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri adds to that rice is one of these species of grain. There are 6 species of grain, and v'chayavin al chimutz kares, and if you make bread out of it, it could become chametz, and you would get kares for eating that on Pesach. And you can make matzah out of rice cake matzah, and you would be yotzi your mitzvah of achilas matzah with that. And we see from the fact that Rav Huna said that you can be yotzi your mitzvah on Pesach with silka va'arosa, you see that he ate rice on Pesach. He wasn't even concerned about the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri at all. That was rejected completely. I should just point out, and this is important to know, that our minhag today of not eating rice is not because of the sheet of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. It was because of the minhag of kidneys in the days of the Rishonei Ashkenaz, that they would keep the grains all together, and there was a concern that rice and wheat would be intermingled, and we would end up eating chametz on Pesach. But that is not because of the concern that rice itself can become chametz. Okay, Chizkiah says, "Afilu dagu beitza shalav." Your 2 cooked foods, and this has ramifications with regards to how to give mishlach manas today. What is 2 cooked foods, which could be a dag of fish, ubeitza shalav, and the egg that is cooked on top of it. Meaning, if you make fish with an egg on top, even though it's cooked together, that is 2 cooked foods. Rav Yosef says, "Sarach shnei minei basar," not fleishiks. Rav Yosef says we need to have 2 kinds of meat. Echad zecher lePesach, one as a remembrance for Pesach, echad zecher leChagiga, and the other as a remembrance for the Chagiga. Ravina says, "Afilu groma ubishula," even a bone and its broth. And here the Ramah points out in Darkei Moshe that obviously it doesn't mean a bone by itself. It means a bone with a little bit of meat on it. And this is important to know that when you put your shank bone on your Seder plate, halacha l'maisa, you have to make sure that there is a little bit of meat in it. If there's only bone there, it's zecher to nothing, right? Because the bones itself you couldn't eat. And we've learned previously that you weren't even allowed to break the bone open to get the marrow inside of it. So you have to make sure that your bone on your Seder plate has a little bit of fleishix that's stuck to it, a little bit of meat on it that is necessary. Says the Gemara, Pshita. There's something very obvious here. What's obvious? If you have other vegetables, going back to the Mishnah, Mavarich Ashari Yorakas Bari Priadama. You're going to make your Bari Priadama on eating your carrots or eating your bananas, like Rav Taitz would say in New Jersey, right? That you would eat your you eat your bananas, you can eat your strawberries, you can eat your carrots, eat your celery, whatever it is. You make a Bari Priadama on all of these things, on your watermelon, and then you go and you eat it. And then later you're going to make an alachilas mara v'achil, and you're going to eat the mara later on. What are you going to do if you only have lettuce? Amar Rav Huna says, "Mavarich meikara amarar bari priadama." You're going to make a bari priadama on eating your karpas at the beginning of the meal, meaning on this thing which is marar. That you're going to make a bari priadama at the beginning of va'achel, and then you're going to eat it. And then later on, much later on in the seder, at the end of Magid, you're going to say an alachilas mara. You're going to make an alachilas mara va'achel, and you're going to eat it then. And then at the top of Kuf Tes Vav and Aleph, Maskil Flo Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda is going to disagree with him, and Be'ezrim Yisbarach we will continue with the challenge of Rav Chisda and continuing with the halachas of Pesach in these beautiful Shloshim Yom Kodem HaChag. On our way to the Geula Shlema of Nisan, looking forward Be'ezrim Yisbarach to continue learning with you. L'chaim Tavim Shalom. Everybody should have a Freilichen Purim, and Be'ezrim Yisbarach we will see you later. L'chaim.